Alright, Pretend here, back with another Honkai style guide, and today I'm here with another video regarding Feixiao. This video pretty much aims to take you over a multitude of reasons, things to consider, such as upcoming reruns that you might have to worry about, the team comps that you might have to worry about, high investment, low investment team differences, and sort of those kind of things regarding Feixiao, just to help people if they are kind of decided and they are torn between if they want to summon for her or if they kind of want to skip her. Because there's a lot of stuff going around about Feixiao, so I definitely want to aim to cover a lot of the stuff, and also with a lot of scenarios that you should consider as a free-to-play or pay-to-play player, light spender, very, very low spender, free-to-play. Definitely going to be something tailored towards those players, because if you're a whale, you're most likely just going to swipe anyways, so it doesn't really matter. And so yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Before I get into the video, make sure to drop a like, drop a sub, hit the bell icon for more videos like this, along with other types of videos. I already have a bunch of videos talking about Feixiao and other characters, a bunch of guides to come in the future, so definitely stay tuned, and let's get straight into the video. So starting out the video, obviously going to be talking about Feixiao and what she kind of does first, and from what we know. Obviously not everything we know is finalized, we don't know everything, there's stuff that's going to change, there's stuff that's not completely out there, because everything is not fully confirmed. So without getting into too much, I'm going to assume you, the viewer, knows what she mainly does, but to reiterate a few things that is definitely a must know is, first off, obviously as we do know that's confirmed, Feixiao is a wind hunt character, and then moving on to other things, Feixiao is going to be another character similar to Acheron that does not function off regular energy. She will have her own version of charges that she gets a different way, as we do know Acheron gets it off debuffs, but Feixiao is going to be getting it differently. From what it's looking like, she's going to be getting it via her attacking or someone else attacking, so every 2 attacks will give her a charge, and after 6 charges she's going to be able to unleash the ultimate, and you can get up to 12. The more charges you have, the more attacks the ultimate can do. And the whole playstyle for Feixiao is going to be building up the stacks as fast as possible, and her ultimate is going to be the nuke. Her damage outside does not seem to be too crazy, but her ultimate is extremely potent. On top of that, her ultimate, thanks to one of her traces, is actually considered launching a follow-up attack, so those kind of characters can also buff her as well. And so now the first proper topic of this video. The first thing I want to talk about is characters that everyone should consider that is still have yet to rerun. So there are very, very, very powerful characters that have not rerun yet. As of this video, the next part of the 2.4 update will be the Sparkle rerun, so that's a character that a lot of people will be considering. And then the characters after that have not rerun yet includes Dr. Ratio, Black Swan, Acheron, Aventurine, Robin, Boothill, Firefly, and Jade. Every other character in the game, from Zele all the way to someone like Ruan Mei, has reruns, so we do not know how they will be rerunning or when they'll be doing a double rerun, or if there will be a new banner format for them. So it is safe to assume the characters that I did mention will be rerunning eventually and throughout the next little few updates to come. And so if you do notice from the list, there are very, 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 very good characters that are going to be rerunning. To name the top of the top most notable ones, mainly is Acheron, who is one of the best DPSs in the game, Firefly, who is one of the other best DPSs in the game. One's a pure debuff DPS and the other is a break DPS. Then we talk about Aventurine, who is the best sustain in the game. That is definitely at the very kind of top of the tiers of the rerun priority for a lot of people, and is definitely characters that you should be worrying about if you do not have, or if you are considering to get them. And then below them isn't the characters that make a super big impact to your account, but are all still really good. So Black Swan is a very big one because of how good she is at debuffing and her role just being pretty flexible on most teams. Robin is practically one of the best harmony supports in the game now, considering how useful she is on teams as well. I will say now, she's going to be a very, very big part in Feixiao's playstyle, so definitely keep note for what I talk about later in this video. Same with Aventurine. Boothill is a single target character, but he's so good at what he does, to the point that for most part a lot of people should consider him because of just how good he is. Obviously if you have Firefly you have less need, but if you don't, very, very good option. And then the lowest priority for most people is going to be Jade, because she's mainly good in pure fiction unless you do get her E1, which is quite the investment, so most people will not be considering her too much. And at the very bottom of the priority list, I want to say is Dr. Ratio, because mainly for the fact he was given out for free. He is at the lowest priority, but that does not mean he's weak at all. He's still really, really good, one of the best characters in the game for how good he is, and anyone that might not have his Lycone could even consider that, because his Lycone is really, really good. But for the most part, people will be safely skipping that because most people have Dr. Ratio. The only people who don't have him are people who started after 2.2 started and onwards. And so all these characters rerunning is a very, very big thing to consider, because again, Acheron Acheron, Firefly, centering a team around that is practically a team that's going to set you for endgame. Aventurine practically goes on every single team. He is just the best sustain. You build him properly and not even anything crazy, and he is just going to keep you alive forever, especially with the utility he provides and the damage he can do himself for being a sustain. And then everyone else having a really good role. Like again, Robin is just really good as a harmony support, becoming one of the best because everyone just sees more use in her every day. Boothill, once again, a lot of people won't consider because most people will have Firefly and they don't want another break character. But to the people who want a second one or they're thinking of a break character, Boothill, if you get him, he will not disappoint you. He is super good. Black Swan, once again, one of the best debuffers in the game. Really good for Acheron wanters if you want her on your team because she works perfectly there. She's absolutely broken on a dot team if you're preparing for that. And just a really good general debuffer because she also has defense shred on her skill. And then Jade, once again, most people won't really need her because she's just kind of locked to perfection unless you get the E1. So most people won't really be considering her. And then at the very bottom, once again, most people will have Dr. Ratio because he was free. So this is not really a consideration. And then the last thing I want to talk about rerun wise is one very important point for Feixiao herself. And that is one of her best teammates will not be rerunning for a while from what we know. That teammate is Topaz. Topaz did rerun in 2.2 first half with Robin. So there is no word on when she will be coming back. And for the most part, it does not seem like she's going to be back for a while. So that's a very important thing to consider because Topaz is one of Feixiao's best teammates. And so anyone that did not get her or anyone that wasn't playing at the time, sadly will not be able to get her for a while, as we do still not have any word on a double rerun character. So anyone that has already rerun has not rerun again, all the way from Zele, who was the first character to rerun and also the first character in the game. She has not gotten a second banner. So if you are wanting to run the most optimal Feixiao team, you're going to have to be very patient until Topaz comes back. Now enough about those reruns. Now talking more about Feixiao again, I want to talk about some strengths along with weaknesses real quick because there's not too much you can gauge off of, but there is a pretty set in stone things of what she looks like. So some strengths for Feixiao to consider is that her damage is quite consistent, and the way to get her all is relatively easy because all you have to do is just have someone on her team attack. It doesn't actually have to be her. She is just the one that has to attack, and once anyone that does attack on the team, so once you have two people attack, that's going to give her a charge. This also does include for her attacking and then you having someone like Bronir or Sparkle give you an action forward so she attacks again. If she attacks twice, she's going to get that, and she's also going to be able to refresh her own follow-up attack, which also counts as a charge. So any form of attack being basic skill if they attack the enemy, or a follow-up attack that also attacks the enemy is also going to be considered for charging her up. On top of that, she is going to have one of, if not the hardest hitting single target ultimate in the game. There is the whole thing about AoE characters doing single target levels of damage onto a enemy, but her ultimate is easily going to top that, even anything just proper like that. Acheron out, fully buffed, could do near numbers, but overall with a proper Feixiao, she is going to hit the hardest on a single enemy and is going to practically be able to nuke any single elite or boss enemy in the game. But some of the apparent weaknesses on her right now is, I did say her damage is consistent, but that was obviously not included the ultimate. Outside of it, it is consistent, but is consistently low, I should say. Her actual damage outside of her ultimate is very much around the 30 to 70k. It really depends if you ever like Cone her teammates, but overall her damage outside of it, so the skill, the follow-up attack, is on the lower side. It is not low to the point where you can't kill mobs, so you can have a strat of where you use her to kill the mobs and she clear them out and then nuke the main enemy. But overall, if you had to deal with maybe 2 elite enemies, which is pretty common, then it might be a bit of an issue because she kind of does not have higher side damage. And another thing is, while her ultimate is actually easy to get for charges, it also vastly depends on the team, just like her overall damage, because it is 2 people attacking, which is easy. Action forward is easy, but if you may have a team that is sort of on the slower side, or maybe no one else on the team has a follow-up attack, it is going to be very much slow to charge her. And once, as I mentioned, her ultimate is going to be the big source of damage, and her damage outside of that isn't too great. So if you have a slower side team, or you have a team with no one doing a follow-up attack, it's going to pose a bit of a problem to get her ultimate. And now more talking about her actual team sides. So I will say there is a premium team and there is a pretty low-end team. So obviously the premium team versus the low-end team, the premium team is going to be way better. And unfortunately, a thing you do got to know is for her premium team, it is quite the investment. So the high investment premium team for her is obviously going to be Feixiao herself, Topaz, Aventurine, and Robin. Topaz, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is going to be one of her best teammates. Robin is her best harmony support thanks to the action advance to the full team, allowing everyone to give her more charges. Feixiao herself attacking so she can refresh her follow-up attack, the damage dealt she provides, the follow-up damage, crit damage dealt she provides, and crit damage in general, and then the attack percent also very much helping. And since Feixiao is also going to be attacking a lot, the additional physical damage Robin does in her ultimate is also very helpful. And Aventurine is the best sustain on that team as well, because everything he provides is going to be really good. From the shields making it to where you not die, to the ultimate debuff he has called Unnerved, making the enemy you hit have 15% crit damage dealt towards them. So if you do hit someone with Unnerved and then you have Feixiao out that, they're going to be taking 15% more crit damage, which is going to scale quite heavily eventually. On top of that, if you have something like his light cone, he can also inflict vulnerability, and since he himself has a follow-up attack that also can get charges from other people doing a follow-up attack, or the shield getting hit, his follow-up attack can also be one to charge Feixiao's ultimate as well. So that is the high investment. Obviously you can sub out maybe one or two of them. Say you could sub out Robin for someone like Sparkle, because Sparkle will work fantastic on that team as well, giving crit damage so Feixiao can do more damage, the act forward, so she can get more attacks and refresh her follow-up attack. Same thing applies to Bronya. Instead, Bronya gives everyone crit damage, which is also going to be helpful for someone like Topaz and Aventurine if he has some damage built in. And then both of them, once again, the act forward is going to help a ton. So having a one or two sub characters in there is going to be fine. So if you really want to have her at her optimal level of performance and you want her to be performing as good as she possibly can, the investment is quite steep in the team you need. And the difference between that would be the low end team, and the low end team would be something like Feixiao herself with Hunt March 7, Hanya, and a sustain of your choice. A lower end sustain namely would be Gallagher, because Gallagher himself can be built very offensively. You can have offensive healing with someone like Feixiao who attacks a lot, is going to be pretty nice. So Gallagher isn't actually a bad option at all, thanks to the fact that Feixiao herself also does have some weakness break efficiency sort of things, so some break damage and stuff like that can help, but it's mainly for the fact that Gallagher himself can also get a lot of attacks, so overall he can be a really good option. But if you don't have someone like him, then it'd be someone else on the lower end side like Lynx or Jeopard, and those kind of characters you just kind of have to work with. And the gap of performance is very apparent. Thankfully, March 7th, the Hunt form is free and she is extremely good. Since she herself can provide speed, she can do really good damage herself. At E2, that's also free, she gets a follow-up attack. After using her basic attack, she gives the Shifu more crit damage and break effect, which is really good as well. And then once we do have the E6, that's going to make her do even more damage. So at least everyone has free March 7th, which is going to be extremely good. But when you do look over at something like Hanya, she can work really good, especially with a single target character, and Feixiao thankfully is single target in that case, so the stuff Hanya provides is also going to be benefiting her. With the burden also allowing you to recover some skill points at times, that's also going to be helpful, because for the most part Feixiao is going to be spamming her skill. It might become a bit of an issue depending on the team you run for skill points, so that can be a bit helpful there. And then her ultimate giving speed, which is going to be really nice, so Feixiao can get even more turns. And then on top of that, increasing the allies attack by 60%, so a 60% increase to attack is very good. And not only that, that person with the burden, or I should say the enemy, will also be taking damage down increase thanks to her talent by a whole 30%, so that's even more damage down to the enemy, so she's going to be a really good option. On top of that, she is a 4-star, so there are chances that you may have dupes in her, and for the most part her dupes are also really helpful to what she does, such as the E4 extending her ultimate time, which is also very nice. The E6 giving more damage boost from the effect from the talent by 10%, so if you do have higher dupes on your Hanya, it's even better. And then once again, the last thought, a lot of people will have Gallagher because he is also a 4-star, so he can spooky at random. You may summon on a banner where he's rate up, and he also may get given out for an event for free because he has in the past, so you might get it again. And as I mentioned, he is another very good option, since everything he does provide is going to be nice. Offensive healing, really good for Feixiao. Being able to make them take increased break damage, which ties a bit into Feixiao's kit. While she is not really break oriented, she does have some break stuff in it from what it seems. And then also being able to not only generate skill points, but also attack a lot, so you can get more charges for your Feixiao, and that's gonna be a really good thing. But if you don't have Aventurine being one of the highest things on the team, or if you don't have Gallagher up, or you just don't have him in general, then you're kind of stuck with options like Lynx, once again Jeopard. Even if you're really down by Bailu, you're sort of stuck there, because the higher end options would be something like Fuoquo, which honestly the energy will be wasted unfortunately, but she still does provide a really nice attack percent boost, and she also does heal a lot, so it's workable. And then Luotra himself provides a lot of healing, so you practically don't have to worry about dying either. So those are better, but they are also limited, so they do fall more under the premium options rather than the low end options. So you can kind of see the gap of performance, because on the premium side you have Topaz making them take more damage from follow-up attacks by a whole 50%. You have Aventurine making you practically immortal, making enemies take more crit damage, and then having a follow-up himself that's really easy to get, because you can get it by your allies doing follow-up attacks, or the shield getting hit, which enemies are really fast, so it's pretty easy to do that. And then Robin giving everyone a turn, damage dealt, crit damage dealt, attack percent, and also dealing additional physical damage per attack. And then on the lower end side you have Feixiao mainly be the thing. You have March, which is like the sub-DPS slash semi-support. Hanya, which is the lower end support that still can do the job. And then your sustains would be more limited. And so the output you can get versus the premium team is going to be drastically different. Feixiao is going to be doing a lot less damage than she could on the premium team. And on top of that, the output from the charges you can get from the ultimate is going to be lower. So overall, the difference is quite big. Comparing this something to like Firefly, because Firefly herself, her team is quite free-to-play friendly. Once again, it's Firefly herself. Then you have Harmony Trailblazer, who's free. Then you have Gallagher, who's been free and is also a 4-star. And the last slot would be either Ruan Mei, or you can kind of swap her out, so it doesn't really matter. So something like that compared to the high investment of a premium team on Feixiao's side is sort of a big thing you have to consider. And so you do have to consider if A, you do have all the units on your account, or you're willing to build them, because if you have them and you might not have them built, you obviously want to build them so they're functional. Or B, if you are concerned to work with what they have or save for the premium units. As I mentioned, Topaz is not going to be coming back for a while, but Aventurine and Robin have yet to rerun, so those are characters you can set your sights on. And now, sort of a TLDR, Feixiao is more of a Worth character if you can check these boxes. A, you have the units or you're willing to put the time in to build them, slash if you already just have them built, then that's going to be a big plus for you. So say you have all 3 premium units, Topaz, Aventurine, and Robin, or you at least have 2 of them, that's going to be a really good thing. The best case is if you at least have all 3 of them, but the second best case, which is just nearly as good, is if you have 2 of them, mainly being Topaz and one of the others, because the other one you can just save for right after Feixiao. Enough about that. B, you are actually willing to save for the upcoming reruns. So once again, Aventurine and Robin, because for the most part, as I said, the reruns are quite stacked. We have Robin, Aventurine themselves, Acheron, Firefly, Boot Hill, all these characters that have to rerun so far. There are a bunch of options that you can consider that a lot of them are also really, really good. And C, if you're not able to check these boxes, you are still a person willing to run a lower end team. Once again, do note the gap between the premium team is actually still pretty large in this instance. Like the idea I had of talking about Firefly's premium team versus Feixiao's premium team, Firefly's is a lot more free-to-play friendly, and Feixiao's is a lot more less free-to-play friendly because you have to have all these kind of premium units. And her best supports are all limited characters, along with her best sustain. While on Firefly's, her best support is a free-to-play unit, and her best sustain is a 4-star that is technically a free-to-play unit because it was free. And then the last slot is the only other premium unit being Ruan Mei, but again, that is interchangeable. And then D, this last box is more for newer players that are considering Feixiao. If you are a newer player, you are willing to work towards building the lower end team while you do save for potentially soon to rerun better teammates being Robin and Aventurine. And then finally, for people that Feixiao would most likely not be worth it for, is A, you do not have the units to make her work really well. B, you don't really want to save for the characters that are really good on our team if you are missing them. So if you're missing characters like Robin, Aventurine, you don't really want to summon for them, then that's going to be a big loss in the performance you can get, so that might not be something for you to consider. C, you're not really happy with the difference between high end and low end performance for Feixiao because once again the gap is very big. And or you don't want to build the lower end characters such as Hanya, Hunt March 7th, so you'd have less options and you just don't want to work with them. And that also include for newer side players that might not have the characters. And then D, the most obvious one, is you have other rerun priorities for the characters that have yet to rerun. So once again, characters like Aventurine for other teams, Acheron for your second team, same with Firefly, Black Swan for a debuffer, Boot Hill for your other team. Again, there's all these really strong characters to rerun that you have to consider. So if your priority isn't making Feixiao the best of the best, and you morally are leaning towards other ones that you want to do, because characters like Aventurine can be used multiple ways else on other teams. Black Swan is this universal debuffer, and then the DPSs could be a stronger second team because you might have more debuffer characters that are better with Acheron, because you could have characters like Silver Wolf and you might already have Black Swan, or you have a built Pela, maybe you're even summoning for Xiaochu. And then with Firefly, once again, Harmony Trailblazer most people will already have if you've done the story. Gallagher most people will have because he was free. A lot of people will have Ruan Mei, but once again, that last slot is pretty changeable. Or maybe you're wanting to get Robin for a different team, such as a team with Yunli, or an already existing follow-up team that you don't want to change. So there's a lot of scenarios that you could have where you want the rerun characters more than Feixiao, and in these cases, Feixiao will not be really much worth for you. And so yeah, that is the video. That is mostly talking about the issues, the upcoming stuff that you have to consider, and just a bunch of scenarios that you kind of have to consider and that you should know about Feixiao. A lot of things such as talking about what she'll do. Obviously, if you don't like what she does, then you won't really want her. A bunch of strong characters that are coming to Rerun soon, so that's another thing to consider. You might not like the strengths and weaknesses. The gap between high and low investment you might not be the biggest fan of because it is quite noticeable. And so there's just a lot of things you should consider first, especially if you're on the lighter spend side. If you are more on the dolphin side, then it's kind of easier for you. The more you spend, the more easier it is because you can just get these characters, build them whenever you want. But for more on the free-to-play and lower spender sides, this is definitely a very, very important time to consider because, again, Feixiao gonna be really good and a lot of people are gonna want her because a lot of people will like her, but there's so many other good characters yet to come back and also to release, so there's just a bunch of things to consider. But yeah, hope you guys found the video helpful. Peace out.